Agenda passed 9-0. We're going to move on to our next item, time certain for 10:40. And that item is item 74. Motion to enact ordinance title, which is as follows: an ordinance of the Board of County Commissioners of Broward County, Florida, creating a Police and Criminal Justice Review Board, creating Section 18.7 of the Broward County Code of Ordinances Code, and providing for severability inclusion in the code and an effective date. We have members of the public that wishes to speak on the item.
Mr. Mayor, you have 10 speakers signed up and 2 signed up for questions only. There's one on your last page. Don't forget that one.
Okay, all right, so why don't we do that? We'll go ahead with, so I don't miss him, Mr. Michael Emmanuel Rayner. Would you go ahead, sir? And then we're going to go to the list in the front. Would you release the line for Mr. Rayner? Operator.
Michael Rayner, please press pound 2 on your telephone keypad.
Each person will get 2 minutes to speak.
Michael, your line is unmuted. Please go ahead.
Good morning, Mayor and Commissioners. Michael Rayner. I first want to thank the Commission for including several of the items that I was concerned about in this item. I do want to encourage maybe to expand area on training, to also include perhaps jail visitation. Given, I mean, we just had an issue of a pregnant woman giving birth in the jail cell. I think there's issues that do need to be addressed with that as part of this being a criminal justice review board. I would also add that there should be probably training expanded not just on race but also on other minority groups. The LGBT community has some various unique facets to it that, especially in the trans community or the transgender community, that would be important. On page 5, line 14 and 15, I see that the Commission is exempting this board from limitation of service on one board. I don't know if that's going to be coming back to amend that ordinance so that it applies to more boards. And then I read the additional materials where Lighthouse Point and Hillsborough have urged to table this item. I actually disagree. I live in Wilton Manors, a city that doesn't have a review board, and I do encourage that this does apply to municipalities. There's no punitive, measures that this board can actually take from what I'm reading, so I really don't know why it's a threat to cities. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Rayner. We're going to go on to Ms. Andrea Galvan, followed by Mr. Carnell Staples, and then Mayor Deborah Tarrant, and then Mr. Dwight Bullard, Senator Dwight Bullard. Would you release them in that order, please?
And if you can please press pound 2 on your telephone keypad. Andrea, please press pound 2 on your telephone keypad. I don't see her.
Okay, we'll go on to Mr. Carnell Staples.
Colonel Staples, please press pound 2.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, all right. Hi, hello, everyone. Thank you all for allowing public comments on this. I'll make it brief. I am, again, in support of this review board, and we did, me and some of my organizational colleagues, we did schedule some meetings with commissioners to discuss their thoughts on having the cops or law enforcement, either former or current, have a vote on this board. We were able to meet with a couple of commissioners, and I want to thank them for taking the time out to speak with us. One of which, Commissioner Sharif, did schedule a meeting with us and then did not show up to the meeting, claimed that she did not, was not able to attend and did not give us any notice, so had us kind of waiting in the Zoom room for over 15 minutes, in which case she did, of course, say that, I was coming later. But anyway, our main question was if the commissioners that are in favor of having cops vote on this board, if they are looking at them as strictly a consultative and educational element to this board, then our question to them was, hey, well, why do they need a vote if they're just there for consultative purposes? No one was able to give us an answer on that. Again, we do not have a problem with them being there in a consultative manner. We do understand that that they do have certain perspectives that is needed in order for this board to function. We just, again, because of all of the power and the influence that they already have, we don't feel that a vote on this board is necessary, as it would cancel out the community organizers' votes that are on the board as well. Now, as for the additional notice coming from the mayor of Lighthouse Point, as the commenter prior to myself did suggest, because this is not a punitive board, they are not in any danger. I don't see why we would need to push this ordinance out any further, as it is essentially here for analysis and data collection. I personally, again, do support this board. I support anyone that does support this board, but again, I feel as though this is for the community, it benefits the community, and having police influence and police power on the board is not a benefit to the community overall, and it does not build trust within the community.
Thank you, Mr. Staples. We'll then go on to, I don't know if Miss Andrea Galvan has come back on. She's not. Then we go on to Mayor Deborah Tarrant. Mayor Tarrant.
I know she wanted to speak to us, so.
Go ahead.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead, Mayor.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was disconnected there for a second while I was being unmuted. Thank you. Before the timer starts for my comments, for the record, I want to clarify that I am the mayor of the town of Hillsborough Beach. Since I just got the details of this ordinance yesterday, I have not yet held a commission meeting on my own with this ordinance on the agenda. Therefore, my comments represent my views alone, although I have spoken with our town manager and chief of police who share my concerns. Again, my name is Deb Tarrant, and I'm from Hillsborough Beach. First, I want to applaud the commission for responding to the need for a comprehensive look at law enforcement practices in Broward County. I'm deeply concerned, however, that these efforts have manifested in the creation of a review board populated by special interest groups. Of the 24 proposed seats, no less than 1/3 represent special interests. By definition, members of special interest groups have identifiable biases. This is why they belong to a particular special interest group. In addition, this ordinance actually states that a prerequisite for board members is having had negative personal experience with law enforcement. By stacking the board with activists and people who have had negative experiences with law enforcement, you're not creating a review board, you're creating a lynch mob. People with personal grudges and special interests and who are not trained in any aspect of law enforcement cannot possibly serve in an advisory capacity to people who actually put their lives on the line every day. The arrogance of that notion absolutely floors me. Preconceived bias defeats the purpose of having a review board. Not a single board seat should be allocated to groups or individuals who clearly have anti-law enforcement leanings. Instead, seats should go to professionals in various areas of law enforcement, professors of criminal justice, and the non-BSO municipalities whose municipal police departments will be subjected to review. We should learn from New York's knee-jerk response to George Floyd's death. The city made the mistake of moving away from traditional law enforcement. As a result, shooting victims in New York are nearly double this time last year, and the NYPD retirement rate is up 87%. Law enforcement officers are fed up. Using law enforcement as scapegoats for society's problems is a no-win situation. This proposed review board, if executed as detailed in this ordinance, will only exacerbate problems in Broward County. Thank you.
We'll move on to Senator Dwight Bullard, followed by Christine Palacio, and then Lisa Rask.
Good morning, Mayor Holness and Commissioners. Senator Dwight Bullard on behalf of the New Florida Majority. The New Florida Majority has sat in coalition with a number of community-based organizations in Broward. We do work in Broward. Our office is actually located at 1142 West Sunrise Boulevard. As some folks have, made assertions that, because our home office is in Miami, that we don't have a presence in Broward. So I wanted to clarify that. New Florida Majority was also part of a 22-member coalition that helped pass a similar review board in Miami-Dade County very recently. I would definitely encourage the Broward Commission to move forward with the acceptance of this particular agenda item because of the necessity of review, especially in this time and place. Even very recently, you had a situation in which the law that was recently passed around the treatment of pregnant women while in incarceration was violated by officers who were staffing that location. Again, these are sort of continuous opportunities that are missed in terms of police accountability. So I would definitely recommend the passage of this. The coalition that we are a part of in Broward has submitted a number of recommendations to the mayor and the commission on implementation moving forward, and we hope that the commission, the mayor and the commissioners are taking a look at what the makeup of this review board would look like in terms of its participation. I regret to hear the invocation of the term lynch mob by the previous speaker. As an African American, it is unfortunate that people use this terminology when you're talking about municipal review of police involved occurrences and try to conflate that with violent mobs who historically took the lives of African Americans unjustly. What is so ironic about that statement is
Thank you.
part of why we want the review board established is to make sure that these occurrences don't happen to African Americans in this community. So definitely encourage the commission to support this agenda item.
Thank you very much, Senator Bullard. We'll go on to Christine Palacio. We'll go on
Christine Palacio, please press pound 2 to enter the question queue.
We'll go on to Lisa Rask.
I still do not see her on the line.
I'm sorry, who's this? Lisa Rask?
Hi, yes, this is Lisa Rask. Thank you so much for including this public hearing this morning and taking the time to listen. I am calling because I just learned about this review board probably less than 2 weeks ago, and it was from a Leo that contacted me, a law enforcement officer. And so I am contacting you. I'm in opposition to this advisory board. If you look at the language of this advisory board, as a former board member on the Broward County Commission on the Status of Women, myself, I see this as being far more than an advisory board with some of the powers that are afforded to the membership, including the ability to subpoena. And while the county attorney did point out that there are limitations in subpoena power because of the Police Bill of Rights, that does not negate civilian police force members or other witnesses potentially being subject to the subpoena power afforded by this particular ordinance. And quite frankly, looking at this, I just see this as undermining what BSO tried to do. The BSO's predecessor really created a lot of gaps in the system that the successor had to undertake in filling. And quite frankly, back on February 2020, Sheriff Toney took steps to correct these and has taken steps in the agency. And this preceded George Floyd. And really, this county commission is not giving the sheriff the opportunity to really see what the outcome of the new practices are. And since this is also an election year, and what you're talking about here is a central issue to the sheriff election, I think that you are really overstepping your bounds by rushing this right now. A lot of people aren't paying attention because of COVID and because of the election. They're distracted. And every person that I contacted, except for one, was not aware of this transpiring. Quite frankly, I see due process issues in here as an attorney myself, which are very disconcerting. Potentially, from what I've read about civilian review boards, even after processes in the court have rendered somebody not guilty of something, this could still allow for bad things. And I just think that this is not unifying, and I strongly oppose it in its current form. Thank you so much.
We'll go on to Loris Gale, followed by Maria Schneider.
Good. Can you hear me? Good morning.
Yes, go ahead. Is this Loris Gale?
Good morning, Mr. Mayor. Yes, this is Loris.
Okay. Go on.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor and County Commissioners. I'm Loris Gale. I represent the Caribbean Bar Association, and we are in full support of this ordinance as a first step initiative to address criminal justice reform in our community. And we look forward to further development that will move this initiative and conversation forward, not just in Broward County or Great County, but also in our state. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll go on to Ms. Maria Schneider.
Good morning. This is Maria Schneider. I'm calling on behalf of the State Attorney's Office here in Broward County. And I wanted to say that we are in favor of the concept of a review board. We would like to see a final draft before we can completely 100% be in support of each and every element that's included in this very comprehensive proposal. We do feel that given the fact that the board went from a potential 9 members at its inception of the concept to possibly 24 votes, that the 2 members of law enforcement who will be sitting on the board or who are proposed to sit on the board should have the ability to vote. I do not believe that having 2 votes when you have 24 people total is too many votes for law enforcement. I believe that we believe that they have a necessary voice and input that will be valuable and should be considered as well. We also have some concerns regarding some of the specifics regarding subpoena power and the ability to compel people to testify before the board, not so much in that there is going to be subpoena power, but in the sense that it could potentially interfere with either ongoing investigations or ongoing prosecutions potentially, and might interfere with rights that people have otherwise. I think that we need to be careful about how that section that allows for the subpoena power is worded. But the concept of a review board, I think our office feels is necessary and is welcome. And we are in full support of, again, the concept. It's just some of the details that we would like to be able to see ironed out before finalizing the proposal. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. We're going to move on to Mr. Michael Hausen.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Mayor and the board, for having us comment today on this. I think it is, and I am representing Black Lives Matter Broward. I think it's critical that this oversight board is put into place and that we remember that this is supposed to be for the community to have oversight over those who are supposed to serve and protect us. And so I strongly disagree that law enforcement has a place on this board. If they were capable of policing themselves, people would not be out in the streets protesting for over 100 days. And with all due respect to the mayor of Hillsborough Beach, I resent the use of the term lynch mob, because this is exactly what we are talking about, that these officers are empowered to not only enforce the law, but to use violence against the people they're supposed to be serving and, again, protecting. And that oftentimes it is a special interest group, which we represent, who are the subject of that extreme use of force. And if we do not have a say on this community board, then is it really a community board? And is it truly for oversight? We need to remember that boards like this, commissions and reviews like this have been put together for over a century in this country, and we are still talking about it. So the very idea that we should allow police officers onto this board to continue to disrupt any kind of form of accountability, when really all it allows us to do is obtain information, it is insulting.
Thank you, Mr. Hausen. We're going to go on to Attorney France McLaren, then Attorney Robert Vaughn. And whether is Ms.
Good morning, Mayor.
Yeah, if I may, if Ms. Andrea Galvan is on and Ms. Kristen Palacio. Go ahead, Attorney McLaren.
Good morning, Mayor. Good morning, Commissioner Sharif, and good morning to the other commissioners. I am in full support of this as the person who spoke on behalf of the board of the bar. I'm in full support of this first step initiation. My question for you has to deal with subpoena power, which I heard 2 or 3 people mention before. As far as I understand the proposed ordinance, this is not for a case-by-case, it's not a case-specific investigation. It's really more so for an overall arching investigation or analysis of police practices. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right. That really was my question, because it seemed as if the questions dealing with subpoena power was asking about whether or not you'd be able to, whether you'd subpoena specific witnesses dealing with specific cases. But as I understand it, it's really dealing with the overall analysis of police practices. That was really my only question. Thank you very much for entertaining that question.
All right, good. And I'll have the county attorney elaborate on that in a moment. Attorney Robert Vaughn, President of Broward County Bar, I believe.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor. Can you hear me?
SFRTA, your appointee.
I thought you replaced
Good
me by
morning,
appointing
sir.
him. Didn't you? Go ahead.
I'm sorry?
Go ahead, Attorney Vaughn.
Thank Thank you, Mayor Holness. Members of the commission, good morning and thank you for having me. My name is Robert Vaughn. I'm president of the Broward County Bar Association. And on behalf of our almost 4,000 members, I rise to thank you for taking this necessary step towards creating the model of community policing and transparency that our community needs and is crying out for. Mr. Mayor, I'm encouraged to see the involvement of our Broward Sheriff, our combined municipal chiefs of police, and I'm encouraged to see such a broad and diverse coalition of community and advocacy groups represented in this ordinance. I'm also encouraged that many of our individual commissioners, by record, are so actively involved in drafting and contributing to this very important ordinance, because it's clear that buy-in at every level and at all levels is important to the success of an initiative like this. I also appreciate the hard work of our county attorney's office and their staff. The Broward County Bar Association, Mr. Mayor, rejects any notion that a constructive discussion about community policing and law enforcement should be a them versus us conversation. Rather, we believe that the discussion should be a collaborative effort where all of us, citizens and officers alike, working towards the same goal, a goal of a police force, a peace force that protects and serves the community as its guardians. We believe that we're all working towards an environment where there is no place that a citizen, any citizen, every citizen, feels safer than when they're in the presence of a peace officer. So, Mr. Mayor, on behalf of our members, I congratulate you and the board on taking this bold first step, and I challenge you all, I challenge all of us to stay true to the mission of this ordinance and to work hard to make sure that we not only meet but exceed its stated objectives. I thank you so much for allowing me to speak, and we look forward to working with the Commission on this initiative.
Thank you, Attorney Vaughn. Is Ms. Andrea Galvan or Ms. Kristen Palacio on? Operator will release their line.
Good morning. This is Andrea Galvan. Can everyone, I'm sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Hello?
We can hear you.
Okay. My name is Andrea Galvan. I am calling in because I think it's really important that the commissioners recognize that they're in a position where they can use their voices and the credibility they've built in the community to speak for those of us that need it most. You've spent your careers fighting for what's right, and doing everyday votes on, what contract goes to what contractor. Today, we're asking you to use all of those years' knowledge of experience that your constituents trust you, to take a leap, to take just one chance to give young black and brown voices in Broward an opportunity to get real justice. Police unions and police have millions and millions of dollars in their coffers that they use to protect themselves. All we are asking for today is to have one board that oversees them without their influence. I spoke with a lot of the commissioners personally, and I know a lot of my colleagues spoke with the commissioners as well. And we think that our ask is very small. And we hope that you'll listen to us and see that this is the path forward. Broward County has 1.9 million residents, 60% of whom are Black and Latino. And we're letting cities like Lighthouse Point that have a population of 11,000 that are 93% white determine our future. This can't go on any longer. We deserve justice, and we deserve the opportunity to let our voices be heard and to advocate for ourselves and for our commissioners to reflect our needs. Thank you for your time, and I want to thank the commissioners that took the time to speak to us and to learn about our opinions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Galvan. Is Ms. Kristen Palacio on? No? Okay. We had some conversation about the sheriff's office, and we have Judge Gonzalez here representing the sheriff's office. He's the person that Sheriff Tony has designated to be a part of the discussion and what we do going forward. Judge Gonzalez.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor, and all of the commissioners. Thank you so very much for welcoming myself. And on behalf of Sheriff Gregory Toney and all the members at BSO, I want to extend and continue extending our support for this review board. We think it's an important first step, and you will continue to have our commitment to seeing its success and in whatever capacity we can. Thank you so very much.
Thank you very much. And I think we've covered all our speakers. But before I hand over so I can make my comments, County Attorney, would you speak to the issue of subpoena power so that the audience can understand where we are with that in terms of who, the powers of it and who?
Yes, and Mayor, one of the things I wanted to mention is Commissioner Fisher has proposed an amendment that would address this a little bit, and I think eliminate concerns pretty directly. But subpoena issues are going to be fact specific, but I think the general consideration is binary. And I'm just going to make general statements and understand that we're going to be very conservative in how we apply this because we're going to legally staff this advisory board. But you're prohibited from subpoenaing any person or document that could intrude into a foreseeable or active investigation. And, again, and it's very fact specific, but you can probably in some instances subpoena non-police officers on matters that are not subject to foreseeable criminal or internal investigation. So, and obviously documents would fit into that same category. So those are the general parameters. There's going to be a lot of fact-specific review that would go on if anyone attempted to issue a subpoena, and I think that lends itself very well to an issue that Commissioner Fisher brings up in his amendment.
Thank you very much. Yes, I'm going to go ahead and pass the gavel over to the Vice Mayor. And if I may be allowed, since it's my item, to address it for briefly, and then close the item. As is customary.
Some of us have comments.
There's
a lot of questions I have to let the mayor speak. I saw Dr. Sharif first. I saw Commissioner Bogan second. I saw Commissioner Udine third. And I saw Commissioner Ferb. Therefore, let me get back to the mayor's remarks.
I also would like to speak, Mr. Mayor.
I know you have an amendment, and let me just write down the order that I saw. It was first we're hearing from Mayor Holness, then Dr. Sharif, then Commissioner Bogan, then Commissioner Udine.
Commissioner Rich, please.
Okay, then Commissioner Ferb. Yes.
Let me just recommend that we take up the amendments after the item is introduced, because if you go through this, once and then we're going to have discussion on the amendments, this could go for a long time.
Dr. Sharif first, because she's been very patient, and then we'll do the amendments. But first, let me call on the mayor. Mayor Holness, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you very much. Let me first thank the public for their participation, for lending their voice to this ordinance, for the input that we've gotten from so many in law enforcement. The president of Chiefs of Police and the city of Miramar has supported this. I've spoken to the chief there, and also the chief of Sunrise, and I had a conversation. We weren't 100% on everything, but someone said we weren't talking to law enforcement. I have been to many in law enforcement. We're faced with a situation where we've given law enforcement a badge and a gun and pretty much say to them, fix the ills of our society. Deal with pervasive poverty, homelessness, mental illness, drug addiction. And unfortunately, sometimes with the stress of the job, things happen. I don't believe that or law enforcement officers are evil. I think, by and large, the greatest percentage are there to serve and do good, to help our community. Unfortunately, the system is structured in such a way that oftentimes, on the civilian side, the voice is not there. And I can tell you from my personal experience, while I was serving here on this dais, I was at my then fiance's house, and her son was shot in her front lawn. 3 police officers from Lord Hill. There was probably about 40 shots fired. Young man was 5 feet 2 inches. It was stated that he had a kitchen knife in his hand. The young man suffered some mental illness and actually was Baker acted from that very same premises previously. 3 officers came and he was killed on his front lawn for having a knife. Now, de-escalation could have occurred in my mind. They said, well, because he was within 15 feet, he is a danger to their lives. And I went through a lot in terms of when the investigation occurred. And the way I was treated, it's almost as if I did something wrong. The way I was handled. It doesn't leave a good memory for me. So what this board is here to do, it's not to punish police officers. It doesn't have the ability to do so. It has the ability to review, to research, to look at best practices from across the country and bring them to bear here and make suggestions. They can't even, they're not able to investigate an active investigation. So the police still going to investigate themselves. When it comes to punishment, that won't change. But as it is now, the police themselves. And come on, let's be real. If we are a part of a fraternity, or we're part of a family, instinctively, we're going to look out for our family and our fraternity. Not because we're evil, but because that's the instinct that we develop as humans. What this board will do is look at the criminal justice system. And it's not just about policing. It's more than that. In Broward County, I, as a black man, it's twice as likely, 1.9 times as likely, according to ACLU statistics, to be stopped for not wearing a seatbelt as if someone was as someone who's white. 65% of the juveniles, 65% of children that are arrested in Broward County are black kids. Not black and brown, black kids. And just 30% of the population. We have to do better than we have done. We must ensure that we allow everyone fairness and justice and work to build the capacity for everyone in our community to live to their fullest potential. We rob ourselves when we just look at the situation in our communities as a law enforcement issue. So we have to go beyond that. And the police, in terms of having a vote on this body, have votes elsewhere. They have the police union with a Bill of Rights. And someone should go look at the Bill of Rights that they have. What they are able to do and not do, when they can be investigated, how they have to see evidence before, how they can change their statements. So there is something there to protect them already. All this is going to do, it says, let the community take a look. And to exclude those who are advocates makes no sense at all to me. Because again, the police union, powerful union, and they contribute to our campaigns, and they go out and help us win elections. They're very organized. The rest of the community doesn't have that power. And again, this is merely looking at what is happening, bringing the best practices forward. There was mention of training, and I've heard that. We want to see more training. There's the ordinance allow for that to be expansive. It's not restrictive that you only do this or that. And I think we ought to let that be there so that as time goes on, there might be different practices that we want to look at in terms of how we train the folks that are here. So I've listened to the community. I've heard them. They're asking that we don't allow the police to have a vote on this, but that they be there because we need them there to be able to consult, to be able to offer their opinion. And in our last meeting, we had a vote where we had a 6-3 vote, and I'd like for us to separate out that item so that those of us who choose to vote for the police to be on the board but not have a vote be able to do so. And I'll close in the end.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Let me tell you what my intention is now on how to conduct this. I know there's a number of questions for the county attorney. I have some. We will do that. At that point in time, we will begin calling on the commission members as soon as the county attorney is done. The order that I have right now to call on county commission members is Dr. Sharif, Commissioner Bogan, Commissioner Udine, Commissioner Furr. I know Senator Rich wanted to speak. Is there anyone that I think the only commissioner here that I may have left out is Commissioner Ryan. And if there's anybody right now, I'm sorry, Commissioner Fisher, I apologize, because you have amendments, sir. Okay, so I have in order Sharif, Bogan, Udine, Furr, Rich, and Fisher, and then Ryan, and then we will see if there's a second round. All right, so first, a couple of questions for the county attorney. Mr. Myers, would you mind coming up to the, because I think you'll be up there for a while, and we can't see you, at least I can't. If you want to stay there, you can stay there.
Yeah,
Okay.
yes, sir. I can go up. I don't have that many documents I need to bring with me.
Okay. Mr. Myers, I'll, if you want, I can wait till you get there, or I can start.
It's okay. Please call.
Okay. First, I had one question which wasn't on my list, which is the mayor of Lighthouse Point said that you had to have had a bad issue with the police to be on this board. I would not be supportive of a board that had that criteria on it because I think she would be right that that would result in a board that would have just bad impressions. I didn't see that language anywhere in this document. Can you tell us, is that language anywhere in this document?
It is not in the document, Vice Mayor. I think, unless I'm missing something, I think what she might have been referring to is on page 4. It says that for qualifications in selecting for nomination, county commissioners shall consider, in addition to any other criteria they deem appropriate, the prospective nominee's personal experience with or professional or academic study of certain issues, and then other factors as well.
Okay. So in your opinion, does that mean that we're only putting people on there that have had problems?
No.
Okay. Can you clarify what version we are working off of today?
Yes, sir. We are working off of Exhibit 7, and then there were 2 amendments to Exhibit 7.
And Amendment 7 is the one that we passed at the last meeting, and that now there are 2 amendments, one from Commissioner Fisher and one for Mayor Holness. Is that correct, sir? Exhibit
7 was an attempt to basically incorporate all of your comments from the last meeting into a single document. That's Exhibit 7, never passed, but yes. That's, yes, sir.
Can you clarify the subpoena power? There have been questions about that.
Yes, and I want to, just repeat that this is very fact-specific when you're in the gray area, but there are some things that are not in the gray area. So I don't think under any circumstances, but I would never say never, that, that they couldn't theoretically try to get documents or, speak with someone who works for a police agency way down the road for a case that was long resolved to try to get fact information. That's possible, although I can't say that we would ever think that that was legally sufficient. That would be an uphill battle. But for right now, they cannot subpoena any person or document that could intrude into a foreseeable or active investigation, and we would probably think that would always involve a police officer. So that's why I'm saying we probably wouldn't ever bless legally subpoenaing a police officer, and that they could probably subpoena other witnesses, not police officer witnesses, in matters that will not foreseeably lead to and are not related to an active investigation. So just general fact witnesses. But again, if it could lead to interference into an investigation that's active or even foreseeable, we would take the position that they could not do that and we wouldn't legally bless it.
Okay. Reference to mission creep of the board. The president of the bar actually alarmed me when he said that he hoped that the board would meet and exceed the stated objectives. Well, I would be concerned about exceeding the stated objectives. What provisions are there to prevent mission creep?
Well, and I don't have the full document in front of me, but basically an advisory board is a creature of the ordinance or other code that creates it, and it's limited in powers and functions to those that are stated there. If the board collectively tried to go outside of what its mission is, we would advise it that it could not do that. At that point, if any members persisted in doing that, as you know, one of the changes that was made was this board, in terms of commissioner-nominated members, they basically serve at will. Other members can have 2-year terms and can be removed for cause. And if they try to go into areas that we believe are clearly invalid, we would offer a suggestion that that would be grounds for removal for cause.
Thank you. With the permission of the board, let me ask, we can either have each member speak and then ask Drew questions, or while he's up, just have questions now, but only, all right, Commissioner Udine, no. Remember, these are only questions. This is not debate. This is not statements. These are only questions for the county attorney.
So why can't we can we do what we normally do?
Well, that's what I was just asking, which we prefer, which way we prefer to do. Can we just do what we normally do,
which is take the commission comments, and then as we go along, those people who have questions can ask them, because I don't have questions of Drew right now.
That's what I was just asking. Those are the two ways we could do. I'm happy to do it either way. Is there any preference? If not, is there anybody besides Commissioner Udine that has a question for Drew? All right, in that case, let's just go through our normal speakers. And Commissioner Ryan, you wanted to hear the amendments first. Is that accurate?
I'd like to support what Commissioner Ryan, I believe, said. I think we should go ahead and deal with the amendments first, and then everyone, make whatever comments they have to make. But, it seems like we're going to be doing this twice otherwise.
Senator, that's how we did it in the Senate. That's how Commissioner Ryan did it in the House. So why don't we try it that way? So what we're going to do is first deal with the amendments, and then we will call on the speakers. Now, the commissioners. The first amendment, which I think is probably the non-controversial one, is by Commissioner Fisher. Commissioner, this is not for debate. This is only for your amendment right now. You're recognized to offer your amendment.
Thank you, Vice Mayor.
What's the purpose of having a queue if you're going to just go outside?
But Dr. Sharif, we've had a request to have the amendments first. Okay.
I'm going to speak.
Commissioner Fisher, you're recognized for your amendment.
I'm going to speak only to the amendment, and my concern was, and Mr. Myers really kind of reflected his comments about the subpoena powers. I wanted to make sure that we were not overstepping our boundaries. This advisory board was not overstepping their boundaries when it comes to the subpoena powers of this advisory board. And so he simply added a question or a line that says, upon the review and approval of the Office of the County Attorney as to legal sufficiency. And I think that's very important to allow the county attorney to have that legal opinion whether subpoena powers can be for which particular item. So that's a simple amendment. I hope that it can be a friendly amendment to just obviously allow the county attorney's office to make that determination of legal sufficiency when it comes to subpoena powers.
Okay, Mayor Holness, is that a friendly amendment?
That's fine. That doesn't really change anything. It's okay.
All right.
It's what we intend anyway.
Is there any objection to the amendment? Is there any objection to the amendment? Any objection? If not, show the amendment adopted without objection. We are now on the amendment by Dr. Holness. Could someone, I'm sorry, by Mayor Holness. Right, hoping somebody can get
That's my
Dr.
brother,
Sharif.
not me.
Bertha, could you ask someone to ask Dr. Sharif, tell her we're voting on the Holness amendment now? Okay, Mayor Holness, you're recognized, sir.
Yeah, so the only thing that I'm asking for here is that we make it so that, the police officers, the chiefs of police and the representative from the sheriff's office not be voting members as requested by the community. Now, let me tell you that I hear what they're asking for. I listen to them. I'm being their voice. I personally don't see it as a big problem, but many in the community does. And as such, because I'm the representative of the people and the voiceless oftentimes, I'm lending my voice. So with that, and I know last time it passed, 6-3 for the members to be voted, members. And so there's not an issue with that. And I know that the chiefs of police were happy to have, I'm looking for my notes on that. I have a letter from the chief of the chiefs that basically supports this item with the fact that they are voting members. And I'm trying to flip to it here. So basically, the chiefs of the president of the chiefs of the police departments in Broward County is supportive of the ordinance, and they are grateful that they would have a vote on the item. So my suggestion is just that we have that item pulled out, and then we take a vote, and it passes, doesn't pass. We already listened to the people and heard their voice.
You have heard the motion, which is to amend item 7 to withdraw the part about the voting members. Mayor, I will only make one quick comment. I keep hearing people say the community this, the community that. For some reason, the people who speak think that they are the community. That's not the same thing that I've been hearing.
Let me say members of the community, certain members of the community that may not be.
Mine was directly to that, and I've been waiting.
Okay,
and mine as well, please.
Thank you. Dr. Sharif, you're recognized, ma'am.
Okay, first of all, I was the one that put the motion forward to ask for the police to be voting members. That was my amendment last time. And if you recall, we did bifurcate it. We voted first on whether or not they should have voting powers. That failed. Why are we revisiting that again? Then I put the amendment on the floor.
Dr. Sharif, it passed.
It passed 6-3 to have them be voting members, okay? So that is disposed of. That's why it traveled with this. So there is no bifurcation at this point because the county commission voted 6-3 to pass that.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, there was a reason why I put that on there. So let me explain that for these people who are angry on the phone. I said before, and I'm going to say it again, this board, there are some unrealistic expectations that are being placed upon this board that are not there. They will never exist because our authority in that manner has been usurped by the Florida statute and by the police guidelines that are already in place. That's what Drew keeps speaking to. I think we've beat that ad nauseum. We need to move on. Secondly, the seats that I asked for voting members for police give us an olive branch to police enforcement so that they can take back our suggestions to the municipalities as well as to BSO. That has already been discussed. That is why we're doing this. It seems as if every time this item comes up, everybody gets amnesia. And the people who keep calling in here are not listening to the previous discussion on this item. Third, I am not going to be set up with Zoom calls. If I, as a county commissioner, accept an invitation to a Zoom call, and I am running 6 minutes behind and I call in and you don't let me in, that is not a no-show. And don't come out in public and say I did not show up. I called all day long trying to get in. That was a punitive and vindictive move by whoever it was that was setting it up. They gave us no telephone number to call for delay. And I am not going to be slandered in public like that. And I'm not going to be bullied just because they say they're Black Lives Matter and a nude majority and a movement. I don't care. I'm one person. And if your concern is not more important than the next person's concern, if I'm on a Zoom call and that call runs over 6 minutes, I'm going to listen to them for their 6 minutes, and then I'm going to move on to you. And that is the way we work, because everybody needs to have their voices be heard. So do not call in here and slander me. And as far as this is concerned, Commissioner Fisher, I welcome your amendment.
It's already been adopted.
Hush. I'm talking, and I've listened enough. I said I welcome your amendment. I stepped off to drink some water. I welcome your amendment. That was nice. Commissioner Furr, yours as well. I think that this thing needs to be fine-tuned as much as possible, because when we put it out there and it doesn't do what the people want it to do, at least we can do everything that we can possibly do, okay? Those are my comments. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Sharif. And let me say that in the part where you were talking about, and that's what I brought up to Mayor Holness, we keep hearing this is what the people want, but I don't think that's what all of the people want.
Vice
That's not what I keep hearing.
Mayor, I think it's just good that we note that Commissioner Sharif's got some fire. That
She does. All right, we are on and Dr. Sharif, the reason we're on this is, yes, we were working off of Amendment 7, which is the part that says that the police are voting members, and Mayor Holness has offered an amendment to that language to remove it. So that is the amendment that we are on. Is there any debate only on the Holness amendment?
I would like to speak on it.
On the Holness amendment?
On the Holness amendment.
Senator Rich, you're recognized, ma'am.
Okay. I support what Commissioner Sharif just said. I recall that I seconded this amendment, and I thought this was finished. As a matter of fact, I put out an email and actually something on Facebook that had this included in it, because people were complaining that there was no police presence on this board. So we have varying degrees. We need to have a broad and diverse coalition. I like what Robert Vaughn, president of the Bar Association, had to say. It's not us versus them. We need to build bridges here. And in order to build bridges, we need to have everyone have a place on this review board, and everyone needs a vote. Otherwise, there's no equity there. And as someone said, there's 24 people on this board. 2 people are not going to sway 22 other people. And if they do, they probably have a very good reason, and all those people are going to agree. So I believe very strongly that, and someone said that, that the police have a perspective. Well, everyone has a perspective, and we need to make sure, and everyone has a bias. That's why we're working so hard with our Dismantling Racism program. So I really believe that if we want to bring people together, if we want to have a truly collaborative effort that can succeed in actually doing what we were talking about, and that is looking at best practices and reviewing and researching and not having a punitive board, then we need to let everyone be on the board and be on an equal playing field, which means everyone having a vote. So I do not support the Holness amendment.
Thank you, Senator Rich. It's been pointed out to me by the county attorney. Is there a second for the amendment by Mayor Holness? Is there a second for the amendment? Is there a second? Showing no second, the amendment dies. We are now back on the original speaker list, which first had Dr. Sharif. Dr. Sharif, have you completed your remarks, or do you have additional remarks? Okay. Commissioner Bogan, you're next, sir.
Are we talking just on the amendment?
We are now, no, sir, the amendment failed for lack of a second.
Okay.
We are now on the document 7 as amended only by the Lamar Fisher amendment.
Yeah, I want to also say that it's hard for me to say that I do agree with Commissioner Rich, who just made comments. You got to get you to laugh, Commissioner Rich. The question here really and seriously is, do we want a board that divides or a board that brings the community together? And I think that you need to have a board that brings the community together, because that's the only way we're going to solve a problem. And that's by having all parties to a table. And the only thing I wanted to just confirm, and I'm sorry I'm being redundant, and ask our county attorney a quick question. County attorney, I just wanted you to confirm that if, for example, there was an incident today or yesterday or whatever, recently, where there was an allegation of a police officer doing something abusively and inappropriately, this board would have absolutely no power, authority to investigate, no power, authority to do anything with respect to something that's happened just recently that's under investigation. Is that correct, sir?
Yes.
Okay. And also, when we talk about giving advice, our county commission has no authority, to my understanding, to tell the sheriff's office what to do. Is that correct?
That's a difficult question, Commissioner Bogan. I mean, because you have the sheriff's an independent constitutional officer. It's certainly appropriate for this advisory board to analyze trends and other factors and make recommendations to this board. And then it would be fair for this board to convey that to the sheriff. There was also some reporting in here directly from this board, I believe, to police agencies.
Excuse me, Counselor. We can make recommendations to the president, to the vice president, to anybody in the world we want to make recommendations. My question is, do we have any authority to direct? Do we have any authority to direct the sheriff on how to conduct his office and what to do? Do we have any authority? I'm using very specific words, Counsel. Do we have any authority to direct the sheriff what to do?
Even I can't miss that, Commissioner. No, sir. As phrased, no.
So this board has absolutely has no authority to direct the sheriff's office on how to conduct itself and operationally, correct? That is. It's okay.
Asked and answered.
Counsel.
Objection to the forum.
No, Drew, I'm serious.
Mr. Myers, do you wish to answer the question?
It's a little bit nuanced because the sheriff also performs certain functions by designation. But the answer is that we have no power. If I had to answer one way or the other, we have no power.
Okay. Yes. All right. So, because the biggest problem I've had, the reason I'm asking you these questions, I've had a lot of people from the community call my office as well, concerned on this board having certain powers and authority. So I just wanted your confirmation that it does not have any power and authority on any investigation that's going on any type of punishment it may want to institute. There's no power authority in the board to do that or to order the sheriff's office to do that.
It's this board, the review board, first of all, is only advisory, and it can't even give advice with regard to or intrude into anything that is an active investigation or we believe intrude into foreseeable investigations based upon recent events.
Thank you, sir. I'm done.
Vice Mayor, could I just ask Commissioner Bogan real quick? Commissioner Bogan, could you extend your questions? Could you extend your question to the independent police departments as well as the BSO? Meaning you have independent police departments such as Fort Lauderdale, Hillsborough Beach. Do we have any authority?
Well,
besides Broward Sheriff's Office?
We have even less.
I wanted that on the record.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Council, besides the Broward Sheriff's Office, it's true that this county commission and the board that we're setting up has absolutely no authority to direct the activities or give any type of direction to any municipality, police department in Broward County.
Yes, sir, that is correct.
Thank you.
All right, we have left on the list in order Commissioner Udine for Senator Rich, Commissioner Fisher for additional comments, and Commissioner Ryan. And then, of course, the sponsor of the amendment will close. We must conclude within the next 40 minutes. Commissioner Udine, you're recognized.
I'm going to be quick. Thank you, Vice Mayor, because most of my questions have been answered. But when I look at the whereas clause, I think that really it needs to be impressed upon the public that this is investigating general trends, practices, and patterns. This is not for anything specific on any specific isolated case. If you read something in the paper about something that was to go on, this board would have no investigative or disciplinary authority over any of that. My question originally to the county attorney when he mentioned the subpoenas is, on any documents, after an investigation is determined and done, those are public records that there wouldn't even need to be the necessity of a subpoena. So I'm supportive of, obviously it's already passed, the amendment, because most of this would be after and would be public record that we would be able to get. Is that correct, Drew?
Yes.
Okay. I think it's important that the public, and when I say public, I mean all of the public, from our younger and youngest activists to our senior citizens in some of our different communities throughout Broward County, all have a say in the type of policing that they want to see go on in the community. So I'm supportive of a board that provides that opportunity. But I think that it's important for me personally to say that this board does nothing, in my mind, to diminish the respect that I have for the 99.9% of the good police officers that put their life on the line every day to protect the 1.9 or 2 million residents of Broward County. Any bad apple should be disciplined, and disciplined immediately, harshly, and to the fullest extent of the law. And I noticed the one comment that was made by one of the public participants today mentioned the issue in the jails over the weekend, or the other day, and I noticed that the sheriff's already fired certain members of the jail leadership when that happened under their watch. So I believe Sheriff Tony, and I've spoken with him about this, believes in accountability. As to the municipal, I'm hearing from municipal police chiefs also, and there is a buy-in of the concept of best practices and looking what we could all collaborate better and having a conversation about. And I support that. I support best practices. I support having a collective discussion between all the parties involved. And these are recommendations, just like we said, we want to see more of the civil citations that the mayor had brought up. And there were 2-3 years where that wasn't happening. And we went to the Public Safety Coordinating Council and we saw like 3 civil citations the previous year. These are the type of things that I'm looking for here. So, and I also, I 100% agree with what Commissioner Sharif is saying. The perception in the public is way ahead of their skis on what this issue really is. They're blasting us on social media, talking about something that just doesn't exist. This board is not meant to be what some in the activist community thinks it is. I support it because I think Mayor Holness made a good point in bringing this up. And I'm going to vote in the affirmative on it.
Thank you, Commissioner Udine. Let me say I agree with both you and Dr. Sharif, which is why you see, people keep saying the activist community. We are the community. I talk to a lot of other people who have different views. Commissioner Furr, you're recognized. So before I call on you, Ms. Henry, what time do we need to leave here in order to start the 12:30 meeting on time? We're staying here. So we have until 12:30 to wrap up, is that correct?
Yes.
We don't need to use all the time.
Minutes for technology check.
Okay, but the latest we need to be done is 12:25.
By 12:25.
Commissioner Furr, you're recognized. Sir, do you have an amendment? Somebody said you had an amendment?
No, I might, but that's one thing I'm going to be bringing up.
You're recognized, sir.
Thank you. One of the criteria for the membership on this is it said someone who must be a Florida licensed mental health professional nominated by the chief executive officer of the Broward Behavioral Health Coalition. I guess my question is to whoever wrote this, why not have the National Alliance on Mental Illness?
Well, let me briefly interrupt.
Could I answer since I wrote it?
Do you know who wrote that?
I recognize I may not
I
have.
did.
Okay, Senator Rich, you're recognized to respond.
Okay, thank you. So I'd love to, I
Okay.
just want to hear a good answer, that's all.
The reason is that the CEO of the Broward Behavioral Health Coalition is the CEO of the managing entity in Broward County, which distributes over $60 million in mental health and substance abuse dollars to providers all across the community, and she has the best handle on what's going on in the entire community of mental health.
Commissioner Furr, did that answer your question?
I'll accept that. I'll accept that.
Do you have additional comments?
I do.
Please proceed.
The last meeting, I actually had voted with Mayor Holness, and I forgot who else did, not to have the police be a voting member. Since then, I think all of us have gotten numerous emails, and I found I didn't have a good answer. In all honesty, and I felt over the week that we were risking our credibility. We were risking our inclusiveness, our integrity on this, and I have since reversed my thinking on this. I think it is actually better to have, we were already going to have members on there, but I think now we can pass the smell test, so to speak, and go forth with the, an honest answer here and say everyone is part of this, and I think the inclusivity is important. So that's I know the mayor looked to me to try to second this, and I wanted to give you a reason why. I imagine you've gotten a lot of the emails as well. I do want to see, I think all of us want to see a review board that is really putting forth some good prospective ideas on how to better our police practices. This is the way to do it. You can't do it in a vacuum. This requires everybody at the table, activists including, and having a really robust discussion, and that can be done. So I just wanted to explain my position on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Furr. Senator Rich, you're recognized, ma'am.
I've already said what I needed to say. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Commissioner Fisher, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Vice Mayor, and thank you for everybody's support for the amendment. Just a couple of clarifications that the Lighthouse Point mayor, is actually the Hillsborough Beach mayor, had made those comments with it. So City Lighthouse Point made me clarify that for you. Just a couple things is, and I don't want to be repetitive because I obviously agree with all of my colleagues and don't want to be just continue to drill it in, but there's been a lot of public mistruths out there, and I want to clarify just a couple of those, and for the record and for Mr. Myers, is this group cannot defund the police, correct?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
Thank you. And we cannot press charges.
Also true.
Okay, so those rumors that get out there, and it just continues to be hammered that we're going to defund the police, we're going to be able to press charges. That's absolutely not correct. It is not a quasi-judicial board. It is an advisory board, and I want to make that clear. The only last thing I just wanted to really, and I don't know how we decided, with the clergy selection, one of the emails was brought up that, and Mayor, you might have a word on this too, is, we have our Christians, we have our Jewish faith, we have our Muslims, we have our Hinduisms or whatever. I just don't know how that's going to react at the end of the day. I guess we're going to let all faiths come together and select that clergy. Is that how we're going to be doing it?
That wasn't what I proposed, so that's what.
I just want to make sure everybody has that voice in there.
So where we end up is the fact that we don't really know exactly who that person is, how that process will be selected. I'm okay with having a representative from the clergy. My intent was that.
Me too,
Yeah, my intent initially was that we seek some minister from organizations that have congregants who are more likely to be affected in a desperate manner by our police department, and let that be the person who sits on it. That was my intent. It's changed, and I'll live with it the way it is.
Okay. Thank you, Vice Mayor, for your.
Are you done, Commissioner Fisher? Okay. Commissioner Ryan, you're recognized, sir.
I think we finally have come up with an ordinance that will achieve what Mayor Holness's original purposes are. And I'm not going to speak for you, but hopefully after my remarks, you'll just say, no need to close.
Not a chance.
What I think this may end up being, Mayor Holness, is actually the most important item that you have proposed and that you have completed in your tenure as mayor here this year. It could have the most long-reaching and fundamental changes for the benefit of this entire community, this county, and be really an example for the entire South Florida region. If we work together, if this board has realistic expectations, and that is to investigate police conduct in the context of how do we make positive recommendations? How do we go forward and integrate the social services that we have available, mental health services, all of the different programs that so many people in the community are not even aware of, but bringing on to scenes where we have conflict, where you can't have just a social services person or a psychologist appear. You need to have a law enforcement officer there. But the law enforcement officer doesn't have all of that expertise in those areas to de-escalate. And it's hard to de-escalate when you're standing there and you got a gun on your side. It may be that you need somebody else to draw one of the participants aside and say, listen, here's what's available, here are what your options are. Here's how we can really help this family or help this situation. I see it as a way that we can finally integrate law enforcement with the other services that we have here in this county. And I don't think that municipal law enforcement agencies need to be concerned. I think a couple of members, Commissioner Bogan, Commissioner Fisher, have clearly brought out the point that these are going to be recommendations, and the added protections that we have now on the subpoena power. We've put together an advisory board that I think may be the most impactful advisory board that we have here throughout this county. So I thank you, Mayor Holness. Now remember this, I don't say this too much. You've done quite a good job here this morning.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Has every member, I will make my remarks at the end prior to Mayor Holness. Has every member spoken? All right, in that case, let me very briefly say I agree with much of what Commissioner Ryan has had to say. Let me just say that I, do not want this taken in any way, shape, or form as a slap at our law enforcement officials. This is just a study to be put together so that people can, including our law enforcement officials, can learn. Everybody can sit down together from disparate viewpoints, listen to each other, and come up with better suggestions for policing in the future. Now, to those people who say defund the police, my suspicion is this will cost more. And that's what I believe Commissioner Ryan was saying. I believe that you cannot send a social worker by themselves to appear when there's a domestic violence cause. The domestic violence, police hate them. They will get hurt more often at those than at most other areas. On the other hand, in addition to having law enforcement. Having someone else that is specifically trained in de-escalation, I think will be helpful. I think we just need to understand this is not defunding law enforcement. This would be increasing funding to have everybody there that you need. So that is my view. Let me now call upon Mayor Holness to close, at the conclusion of which we will vote.
Thank you very much, and thanks to all of you for your input, along with the public. Policing is essential to maintaining a civil society. The issue becomes, how do we police? How do we treat people? How do we remove emotions and certain prejudices from policing to ensure that we have fairness and that folks don't fall back to an instinctive position where they prejudge someone based on whatever the situation is in terms of ethnicity, how they look, how they dress. And certainly as humans, we have that instinct to do so. So let me just read this from, because I think we should make sure it's in the record, from Chief Dexter Williams, who's the president of Broward County Chiefs of Police. Honorable Mayor and County Commissioners, Broward County Chiefs of Police Association supports a strong, positive, and collaborative relationship with the residents and businesses of Broward County. We believe that the decision by the county to provide a Broward County Chiefs of Police Association a voting member on the Police and Criminal Justice Review Board will facilitate improved law enforcement, community relations, and foster police services to the entire county. We recognize that this board will increase transparency from the law enforcement community and create new opportunities for dialogue and understanding. The association's ability to be a voting member is vital to ensure that all community stakeholders have equal input in accomplishing the goals of the board. The Broward County Chiefs of Police Association stands with the community while we collaboratively meet the unprecedented challenges of today that will inevitably affect how policing is conducted in the future. We have listened to and continue to cultivate relations with all members of the community, understand and appreciate their expectations of law enforcement and its various roles, and remain committed to improving our relations. Together, we stand ready to meet these challenges. Thank you for your service and commitment to Broward County that will have a long-term positive effect on everyone. Please do not hesitate to contact me or any member of the Broward Chiefs of Police Association Executive Board if you have any questions. So it's not us against them. We can't build a community and a strong nation if it's us against them. There's no intent in this ordinance to do so. The intent is to bring the community, a broad section of our community, together. And that's what we've accomplished. I came in with a certain number of people, beyond the 9 that we would put on the board. I think we're at about 16. It went up to 22, which increased participation, mental health, and others are now engaged in this. It's the right thing to do, to be inclusive and to be collaborative in our efforts to build a better community for all of us. Now, we've emphasized the portion of this that has to do with policing, but it's more than policing. Here's another statistic that you should know. The Tampa Bay Tribune did some research a few years ago, and it showed that across the state of Florida, I, as a black person, if in front of a judge, a white judge, for crimes similar to what you commit, Commissioner Geller, if you did one.
You mean he commits?
Somebody else did.
They commit
someone else did. I will get a 20% longer sentence than someone else. So there's a lot of issues that we face. And we can't pretend it's not there. We've tried to cover it up and sweep it under the rug, and what we have demonstration in the streets. People are crying. People are praying. People are doing everything they can to find a different way for us to build a better way of policing. And this is what the intent of this is. Now, we have civil citation that has saved us a tremendous amount of money. A lot of police departments still are not utilizing this tool that can benefit our community. So there's a lot that we need to look to do to build and make the place better for all of us. And again, thanks to all of you. With that, I make a motion that we approve this item as is amended.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded, seeing no additional discussion. All those in favor of adopting item 74 as amended by attachment 7 as further amended by Commissioner Fisher's amendment today, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Opposed? Show it adopted unanimously, 9-0. Mr. Mayor, you have the gavel back.
Okay, and we have a couple of minutes. Let's try to run through a couple more items if we can get back to that. Let's see if I can figure
Mayor?
out where we are.
Mayor, you have 95. You also have the public hearing items that some of the beginning ones are pretty short, probably.
Okay, so we'll do 95 and then we'll move on. And that is a motion to discuss COVID-19 testing at Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport, similar to Tampa International Airport. Commissioner Bogan, you have 2 minutes.
Okay. For my fellow commissioners who did not see the news report, Tampa International is now offering passengers either leaving or coming in the opportunity to get quick tests. They were talking about all the advantages it has there are certain destinations that are now requiring showing a test within the next, within 3 days. There's just a lot of advantages, I thought, into implementing it. They charge the passengers the cost of it, and so it's not an issue that I was understood to be a financial issue. And I just thought that with our airline traffic that goes abroad and goes to other cities, that it may help. It was talked about being helpful in Tampa. So with that, I wanted to see if anybody had an interest in, I talked to Mark Gale about it. He seemed very open-minded to it and was looking into it. And so just wanted to get the county commissioners, get your thoughts. That's it. Thank you.
Commissioner Farr?
Thanks. I saw the TV report on that.